You will sleep in blood beds, in rivers wrapped in dark red. Hello everyone, welcome to Architrave Gaming, I'm the Archmaster. Today's video topic is about mistakes in encounter balance. We were hearing someone else talk about encounter balance, and it just got us kind of fired up, because we're like, no, that's wrong. And so we're going to make a video about it. So, a few things we heard them say is, oh well, I intended it to be a medium encounter. And when I had my adjustments on the fly, it was to correct a mistake that I made, right? You'll hear a lot of people say this, where they say, well, if you made a mistake with your encounter building, then it's okay to correct it. And then, they were supposed to win the encounter, or it was only supposed to be so difficult, etc. And it got me thinking, who says that what you intend is what should happen? Who says that what you want is the thing that ought to be, and if it's not what you want, then it's a mistake? Like, who gave you that authority? Here's a fundamental assumption that a lot of people have that's incompatible with the way I view things. It's complete paradigm shift, and so I'm going to tell you my perspective on it, because this is the perspective that you must have when you are running my game system, or even just trying to run the superlative Arch game and try to have the most fun you can have with your brain, and also allow your players to have it. So, the idea of a mistake, that's really what this all comes down to. I intended it to be this, but then I made a mistake, so I did some adjustment on the fly. You can argue all day about whether or not you should adjust on the fly, but the real problem is deeper than that. It's the fact that they're in this mindset of, well, if I want something to happen, if I intend it to be medium, therefore it should be medium. Like, A equals B. These are the same thing. What I intend is what it ought to be. That is my problem. So, mistakes only happen in relation to trying to achieve a goal. If you have no goal, you can't really make a mistake, right? The whole point of a mistake is that I did it wrong. That means there's a right way to do it. I'm trying to accomplish something specific, right? The arbiter, that's the name for the referee in my game system. The arbiter should have no goal for an encounter. Therefore, no mistakes are possible to be made, right? What actually is the objective of the arbiter? If you say, okay, well, if the arbiter has no goal for the encounter, not like, oh, well, it's supposed to be medium, or they're supposed to win, or XYZ, right? If they don't actually have a goal, then what is the objective of the arbiter when he's making his encounters? Like, what actually is going through his head? Well, you have two major paradigms. I fall into one. A lot of other people, spurred on by D&D, fall into the other. So, here are the possible objectives that an arbiter could pursue. Objective A, make a balanced, enjoyable experience for the players. Objective B, accurately simulate the world and let the dice fall where they may. Now, you can guess which one I support. I don't think it's your job, as the arbiter, to make a balanced encounter, or to make a fun encounter, or enjoyable, or any such thing. It's not your job to make it fun. The players' happiness and their fun is not your responsibility. It's the players' job to have fun themselves and to make their own fun, right? The whole mindset that, well, it's my job to entertain the players or to make sure they have a good time, is what leads to burnout. That is the entire problem with D&D 5e today, with our so-called GM shortage. It's the fact that we have game masters in the first place, is that they think they're in charge, and they have to make sure everyone has fun. Going back to one of my questions earlier, who gave you that authority? You're not actually in charge. This is one of the reasons why I don't call the one who runs the game in my system a game master. We do not call it a game master, because that idea that, well, you're in charge and what you intend is what ought to happen, like the two are the exact same thing, that is the problem. That is the sickness in the veins of our hobby, is that you have this one guy, the game master, and he's in charge, and whatever he wants to happen is what ought to happen. Just by calling him a game master, you tell him that he's in charge, and then you have to temper it with, by the way, don't railroad, by the way, this and that. But if you just get rid of the underlying assumption that they're in charge, and that what they want is what ought to happen, you cut off the sickness before it even sprouts, before it's even planted, right? So, you have burnout, you have GMs just leaving, you have players being railroaded, you have every conceivable problem extant in the hobby, because the idea that the game master is a game master and he's in charge. What I support, and what your arbiter will be doing if you're playing my system, is accurately simulate the world and let the dice fall where they may. It's not their job to give you an enjoyable experience. It's their job just to simulate the world. This is why we chose the word arbiter. We were going to use the word referee because that's the old school term, and everyone knows what a referee is. You have a referee in football. Everyone knows what he does. He doesn't have an objective. He's not in charge. He's not trying to make one thing or another happen. He's just a referee. He's totally neutral. He just makes the call, right? But I don't think referee sounds cool enough, right? Plus my system, I use a lot. Arches of Apsyildon, Archmaster, etc. So I wanted an A word, and arbiter fits super well. But still, they are just a referee. That's all they are. They're just an arbiter. So, as I mentioned just a moment ago, a football arbiter, is what I'll call him, has no objective, no goals for encounters and whatnot. He just plays it straight, right? If you have one player on one team get injured on the team, the referee, the arbiter, doesn't say, okay, well, let me rebalance some encounters to make it fair. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if one player's team got injured. Run. Play the game anyway. He doesn't care. He has no objective. He's not there to make sure everyone has fun. He's not there to make sure it's balanced. He doesn't care. It's not his job. He's just a referee of the rule. He's just an arbiter, right? That's what the arbiter of the system ought to be. You don't care. You're not rooting for one side or the other. You don't care. You're just running the world straight, right? But I might hear you say, a tabletop arbiter is also the coach on the enemy team. Okay, they're not just simply neutral. They are the ones that create the encounters. They are the enemy team coming at you. How in the world, Archmaster, can you say that you're just a referee, you're just neutral, if you also have to play the adversaries? Well, that's a great question. Great point. You're right. There's something else that the arbiter is doing. Okay, but that whole idea of, well, he's also creating the encounters, that only applies to D&D and other games that copy D&D, that are like it. It does not apply to my game system. Why? Because in my system, this is why you have to take the whole thing holistically. It's not just the game system itself, it's the setting and the Archmaster's Archive, the Arbiter Guidebook, it's everything all plays in together. In my system, the Arbiter does not create encounters. They just place creatures in the world. They say, there's a manticore over here, because that makes sense. I looked at the environment, and I rolled on the tables, and there's a manticore there. There's a dragon over here, and 20 orcs there, etc. They just place all the creatures in the world naturally, and look at their motives and their movements. Okay, this creature hunts in a 10-mile radius. Okay, so they're out there hunting, etc. They run through what each creature does, and they simulate it like a clockwork world, but they don't create encounters, okay? The players create the encounter when they encounter the creature. That's what the word encounter means. The creature is already there. He's already walking around doing his stuff. When you encounter him, that's an encounter. But when you do it this way, this removes all the ability to balance this encounter away from the arbiter, and it gives it to the players. Okay? The arbiter can't control the players and where they're going and when they go there and meet the manticore. There's a random encounter chance when you're in the Manticore's territory every hour or every day, etc., in the rules. So when you roll it and it's a Manticore, the Arbiter can't control that. So this takes the two major dials away, two major dials of balancing away from the Arbiter and gives it to the players. That first dial is the power level of the players. How powerful are they when they encounter this, right? In D&D and other games like it, the Arbiter has complete control over their power level when they have the encounter. Because the Arbiter decides when they have the encounter. Are they level 2? Are they level 5? Do they have, a bunch of magic items, etc.? The Arbiter gets to decide all of it. Or, in the Dungeon Master in D&D, right? In my system, though, on the other hand, the Arbiter can't control it. Because there's a Manticore here, okay? And there are 20 orcs there, and there are 5 orcs here, and there are 100 orcs over there. That's just where they are. The players have the ability to decide when they encounter this thing and how powerful they are. They can walk up to the dragon and the manticore and the 100 orcs when they're, just starting out, and they'll just get squashed. The Arbiter has no ability to balance that encounter, but the players do. The players can say, hey, we're not going to have this encounter. We're too weak. We aren't powerful enough yet. Let's go out and, level up. Let's get more power, more skills, more abilities. Let's go get some magic items. Let's go hire a whole bunch of henchmen. Now we're going to even the playing field. We are going to balance this encounter, right? It's entirely on the players to balance the encounter. They look at the encounter and they say, that's too hard for us. Let's go balance it. It's all on them, right? Dial number 2 is the other circumstances in which the encounter happens, right? You can, say fight a manticore. in his lair. You can walk right into his lair, and it's dark and cold, and the Manticore knows it like the back of his hand, and he has little perches for him to hang up on, or like stuff to hang on from the ceiling so he can fly around. Like, this is the Manticore's lair, right? You could try to lure it outside. You can maybe, set up traps or whatnot. You could find it when it's injured or when it's sleeping. You get to decide the circumstances in which you approach this encounter, right? So you decide how powerful you are, and you can create other circumstances, right? Something like henchmen and followers, that could be power level or circumstances, but those are your two main dials of balancing. And guess what? Both of those dials are completely in the hands of the players. The Arbiter cannot decide, you guys go fight it when it's sleeping, or when it's injured, or, when it's outside. Like, not unless they're just egregiously railroading. No. It's like, the Manticore's here, I rolled on it, the Manticore's sleeping. Not that they would necessarily tell them that, but still, the Arbiter knows in his notes, I rolled on it, but it's wintertime, etc., the Manticore is sleeping. Alright. The players are going to go in, and that's what's there. The players... The Arbiter can't just, or at least definitely shouldn't, just change something. Because, I want this fight to be harder, therefore I'm going to violate the verisimilitude of the world, and I'm going to alter things away from what they ought to be, in order to get my outcome. Because I want this to be here, right? This is supposed to be that, right? Just the audacity of an Arbiter, a game master, to say, well, this is what I want, so therefore this is what is supposed to happen. It's like, no, like... Don't you hear yourself? Just because you want it to be medium doesn't mean it should be medium. Encounter, right? That's not up to you. Who are you? It's not your job. You're not in charge of the experience. The players are in charge of their experience. This is what we mean by player agency. Player freedom of choice. The players are the ones in charge. They are the game masters. They get to decide the balance and the circumstances and everything. And the reason why I'm talking about all this is because you want objective accomplishment. You want actual adventure. Only through the objective arbitration, without intent, where the Arbiter does not intend one thing to happen, only objective arbitration without intent makes success objectively achieved. That's why. This is what I would want done for me. If I was playing in someone's game, I would want them to be completely objective, to just arbitrate, to just run the world with no intent. I don't want this to happen. This is supposed to happen that way. There are no mistakes because there's no intention. There's no goal. You're not actually trying to make the encounter light, medium, hard, etc. Your only intent as an Arbiter is to just play it straight. Just play the world. Here's the world. Here are all the people and things. And I know I'll get some comments of people saying, but that sounds like a boring sandbox world. There's no plot. There's no drama. Cool things aren't happening. No. Everything I'm talking about here with encounter balance has nothing to do with the agency of like monsters in the world, like the Manticore. The Manticore could absolutely be a person and a character that killed your father and he hates you and he's planning an ambush, etc. You can absolutely have all of those things there, but it's not the Arbiter's intent to make this hard or medium or whatnot. The Arbiter has no intent. The creatures have intent. The NPCs have intent. They want things to happen, and they may make mistakes, but the Arbiter cannot make a mistake with the encounter was supposed to be easy because they're not concerned with whether something's easy or medium or hard. They're not concerned with balance. They're not concerned with the players having a good time. They are only concerned with the world being played straight because that is the job of the Arbiter. Guess what? This is really easy. The Arbiter has all the burden lifted off of them. Arbiter, you don't have to make a cool story. You don't have to satisfy your players. You don't have to incorporate all their backstory. You don't have to make them happy, okay? It's not your job. They do that themselves. Look, you have one Arbiter and 4 players. Let's actually put the burden where it ought to be, on the 4 players, not on the one guy. The one guy has enough burden just running the world and simulating everything. They don't need the additional burden of also making sure everyone has fun, because then what's the player's job? Nothing at that point. They're just sitting by, and the Arbiter is a service provider. No, in my system, we don't have service providers. We don't have game masters. We have Arbiters. You're neutral. It's so easy to run the game. And guess what? Players, this is great for you, because you get to be in charge. You get to have player agency. You get to actually exert your will on the world and make stuff happen. And if you fail, you know that it was your fault. The Arbiter wasn't fudging. The Arbiter didn't want to make it hard or easy. You failed on your own merits. which is encouraging, because if it's your own merits that make you fail, it's your own merits that make you succeed. So every failure is a testament to the fact that you can win if you work hard enough. That's thrilling, that's fun, that is adventure, that's what I support. That is what my game is about, among many, many other things. But just in the tiny sliver of encounter balance, whose job that actually is, it's the player's job. If you actually give them the freedom and agency that they ought to have in an adventure game, then they will have the freedom and agency to balance the encounter without the arbiter putting on the game master hat and deciding he's the master of the game. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching, for feeding the algorithm in all ways. Thank you to my 2 patrons. And I'm still here. I'm working in the background. For sticking here for so long, here's a little behind the scenes look on what I have been working on. This is what we've been working on. We just have a lot of unformatted stuff that it's going off the page. But we are working on the setting building, the setting builder, the arch world building method, where we have every single type of biome and religion and like everything. The architectural styles, everything, all the races, the different forms of government, etc. If you've ever heard of the Supreme method and the Doppelganger method and the Sperm method and the 5 steps method from Dungeon Coach, if you've heard any of these where there's city builders or world building acronyms that help you build out the world because they have it, we're doing that. Although it's far too large to be an acronym, we just call it the Arch World Building Method because it's going to be the best. We're going to incorporate absolutely everything into it so that you can build your setting in the same way that you can build a character, where you have your character sheet and you have all your different layers of progression. You have your race, your background, your craft, your adherence, devotion, legacy, muse, your mantle, your paragon, etc. You have all of these different layers of progression with your character, and you get to pick, well, in my background I want this one, and with my craft I want that one, and if with my class I want this one over here, right? You get to just pick the options and build your character. In the same way, we'll have that for setting building, where we say, here are all the biomes, here's desert and whatnot, you pick desert, and now there's like a subclass of desert, like a sub-biome. So now we have all the different biomes of what a desert is. You have like plateaus and sandy dunes and cactus deserts, etc. And so you just pick those and put them in the various hexes in the world, and you can just build a world as easily as you can build a character, all the options listed out for you. The reason why we're not making videos and releasing things is because this is a massive project, and we're just working on it in the background. Anyway, that's all. Thank you all for liking, subscribing, feeding the algorithm in all ways, for joining me on Patreon. I'm not releasing anything on Patreon right now, but it supports everything that's going on in the background right here. So yeah, appreciate you. Thank you all. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this concept, because I really enjoy engaging with people. We also have a Discord server where you can hop in and actually fight me on stuff. The reason why we don't have a lot of people talking in the Discord is because I have too many people that agree with me in my own Discord server. So come in there and argue with me about stuff so we can actually get things going. All right. Y'all have a good evening. God bless.